falling like flies. And instead of being like a net scum, flies on shit, I mean, they're falling off. Do flies ever fall off shit? No, I don't think so. And that's why there's so many net scum on the tit. But that's a whole other story. I ought to give a seminar about that someday, but I won't. Who was the angry black man running around the estate this morning? Which one of you guys was running on the estate this morning? You? Okay. My dog told me this morning, Daisy. The last black man that ran on the estate was the angry black man. And he just looks so natural with those dreadlocks, like he's running from the police or something. Oh, there used to be all kinds of stories. Racists all get in trouble. Why are there so many black hurdlers that are good? And I mean, why are they jumping over fences? And anyway, that's a whole... Okay. Good morning. Remind me tomorrow, not today, and I'm not going to do it on camera. I want to talk about taxes a little. Because several of you have got a misconception about taxes. And anyway, that's enough said. You got a misconception about taxes and who has to pay taxes and how to legally pay the least amount of taxes possible. This is not a tax seminar, and I'm not giving tax advice, and I'm surely not going to put it on YouTube. But I pay all my taxes, and no white, black, yellow, or purple man has paid more for tax advice, tax structure than me. And I have the best tax advice money can buy. Plus, I'm married to an international tax expert. So, I mean, when I hear some of the fucking shit you guys say, it's just unbelievable, you know. I want to get that kind of drug. I want to take that shit. So, I mean, as long as it's not addictive, I want to take that shit. Because some of you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Virtually all of you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Last night you went out and, well, I don't give a shit what you talked about last night. But tonight, again, we have dinner. By the way, it was Burke's birthday yesterday. Did he tell everybody and ask you, well, good. Well, it slipped when I was talking to me, and it was like, well, okay. Next. Yeah, next. So we didn't see any movie last night. You did have homework, and we're not going to do the homework on YouTube. But even though you've the goals and affirmations, without even looking at them, I already know that you got to. I hate to give Grant Cardone a plug here, but you got to multiply them by 10, if not more. And again, as I said yesterday. It's easy to use words. We're going to have 10 times greater or whatever, add a bunch of zeros. That's easy. It's easy to talk like that. But it's a motherfucker to do it. It's not just because it takes so much more effort and so much more focus and commitment and all those words that I've used for the last 5 days, 4 days, but it's because there's so much more involved on an emotional level. Because when you get to a certain stage, like I've had hundreds of people tell me, $1 billion, that's I want $1 billion or $1 billion company. They get a $50 million company and they go to sleep. 100 millions. 100 million, 10 millions, they go to sleep. And I'm not scoffing at 10 millions, and I'm mocking Dom, I'm sure you're watching this, but my Swiss former wealth banker. And you heard him, the way he says it. I love the way he says it. The way he runs that word out. He adds one syllable to it. But it's difficult. It's not impossible though. It's very hard. And Jamie, in his own admission, he said why he believed he did the smaller acquisition. And one of you asked, well, is it the same for a $100 million acquisition? And before he answered, I said yes. And that's why the banks would rather, and the big investment banks and the big, hedge funds, etc., would rather do a $500 million deal than a $50 million deal because it's about the same amount of work. In fact, in some respects, it's less work. I know that, you know, if you've never been there, that's hard to imagine. But, and as Jamie was saying when he was talking about the smaller deals, I think he went like this. The big accountants were just, oh, yeah, okay. You know, and then when he talked about 100 million, then they got excited. And that's been the same since I started doing these deals, you know, over 40 years ago. And and I don't like to just say it's the mindset, because it's more than that. It's, and again, the difference between the psychology of winning and the psychology of being a high performer, high performance person, is more than mindset. It's total immersion. It's a way of life. And the people that have been the most successful have, you know, totally immersed themselves in that way of life. From, you know, show me your friends, I'll show you your future, and all these things that we've talked about. I got one of my other deals for reality show was in touch late last night, and I because I don't know if they all watch this, so I'm going to tell you when we're off camera. But he had another idea, how to use my personality, and it's really the strength of my personality to build something that the public will buy. Because there's a lot of things that I could do, but whether the public will buy them or not, buy them meaning do advertising on the various networks, is a whole other story. And one of the things that, you know, you'll learn, and we spent about 30 minutes on marketing. And I know we have, you know, at least 8 or 10 marketing gurus in here, and I only spent 30 minutes on it because that's all it's worth. But when I spend those 30 minutes on it, and we're going to talk about the, you know, and I shot down, I think, 7 or 8 ideas amongst 3 of you yesterday. And I'm not poking fun at it, but I don't know what you were thinking when you came up with them, but I'm sure they made sense to you. But made sense to you based on your 5, 10, 9 years experience in life. And one of the benefits that I give is that I've been doing this a long time, and I've been dealing with high performers a long time. And several of the people that Shakir mentioned last night as examples of success, I trained. And I know how successful they are, contrary to what the public persona is. And, or at least I know 5 years old information. I don't know last week, but I know 5 years old information. Because their mentees come here. And the guys that used to be their media buyers come here. And they say, well, this is what their spend is really on media. And they're having trouble. And they're having trouble with their affiliate programs. And the this, and you don't know about the lawsuits. And the this, and so, and I know all that stuff. And I'm not taking away because they're successful. Well, I mean, most of the guys that you mentioned are making a lot more money than the guys in this room. So, so a lot of the information I get, I take it with a grain of salt, and you know, but that's good to have the, you know, to have the aspirations to do that kind of stuff. Any questions on mentoring? Because that's, you know, you get the right mentor. Again, it's never easy, but it's so much fucking easier. And if you get a mentor that really likes you, I mean, and even though Jamie said, but one of the reasons I beat him so fucking much is I knew if I could just get him to turn the fucking corner, I mean, and it wasn't fucking easy, but if I could just get him to turn the corner, he's really a smart little shit, and he has a capability, and like he says, he loves medical billing now.
I was born for it.
He was born for it. He couldn't spell medical billing a year and a half ago. Okay?
I live for it.
Yeah.
One thing he said is, I said a lot of what Dan was beating me up, but in his coaching, one thing he said to me was, with your background, you should be one of the Forbes 400. And that actually really meant a lot to me.
I forgot that, yeah.
That really meant a lot to me. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. And I know.
He should. He will. He will. We're not done yet. And now, that doesn't mean because there's only one or two of you that have even remotely similar backgrounds to his. So that doesn't mean you can't be a Forbes 400. But with his background, all those the Ivy League guys that are on the Forbes 400, of course, half of them on the Forbes 400 didn't go to school. But the Ivy League guys that are in the Forbes 400 all read like him. But, you know, the other ones don't. But I mean, for sure, I mean, with his, and again, I'm jealous. I wish the fuck I had pedigree. Hector, unlike you, a fucking Taco Bell pendejo. I mean, and my dad was a cop. Okay, but I didn't aspire to live my whole fucking life to be a fucking cop. But so I'm jealous of that pedigree. And even though I make fun of Bavarian Bob, the Max Planck Institute of fucking Nazi scientists and shit, I mean, I wish that I'd gone to that fucking thing. Because I think if I had, you know, kind of a cross between his background and his background, oh, fuck. I don't know, I mean, I would have ruled the fucking world. For sure. For sure. Because I could have related to the real, you know, the Einsteins, and the Einsteins don't relate to me. In case you probably had any trouble figuring that out, the Einstein guys, the Trump guys relate to me, but not the Einsteins. I mean, Albert probably would twirl his hair like he used to do, and interesting, Mr. Peña, interesting. Next, you know, and that would be it. But that doesn't make me feel bad. We're going to talk more, but I mean, right now, are there any questions about mentors, how you get them? No, the importance of them. We're going to talk about what you give them, how you get them later on this morning. Yes, sir.
I was reading your book last night.
And by the way, you know how I call everybody sir? Even the kid. Where's the kid? The little kid. Oh. Why do? Excuse me for interrupting. Why do I call everybody sir? Or ma'am? Yeah. There's no reason that I should have respect for you. You haven't done dick. So, but why? Okay, out of respect. Respect for what?
Natural?
Yes, sir. You're not as stupid as you look. I'm telling you, kebab. I mean, you're not as stupid as you look. Exactly. Because I know what you're capable of. I know what you can do. And I know what a lot of you will do. All of you in here, even my most miserable failure of the group, will be a lot more successful than they were when they came to this fucking thing. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
If two of your mentors gave you conflicting advice,
good question. Go ahead.
How to get to a certain level? How do you distinguish between that?
That's a very good question. I was blessed. I had a lot of blessings that didn't happen to me, but I know, having done this 22 years, that it happens. And that's why when you ask me, is it all right to have more than one mentor? And my answer is as follows. I had a mentor for Get My Head Straight, Scoot On Straight. I had a mentor for general business, and I had a mentor specifically for the industry that I was in. And that was Costa Grazos for general business, industry that I was in, Mr. Ormond, and Jim Newman for Get My Head Scoot On Straight. You shouldn't have mentors in the same industry doing the same thing. If you got a general guy that's, is good for, and you won't call it getting my head screwed on straight. You'll call it a self-esteem kind of guy, or gal. So you should, be careful because you will get conflicting. But if you do get conflicting, then you have to ascertain which one really has the best long-term benefit for you. YouTubers, I'll finish the question. YouTubers, we'll see you tonight or this afternoon. Any questions up till now? I saw that Jamie was holding a little court. No, he should. I mean, to explain some of the nuances. But as I said, I mean, each one of you will develop your own style. Even though you've been exposed to 4 or 5 different styles, all from different background, different levels of education, different levels of speaking ability, communication skills, different levels of money raised in the past, from 0 to 3 rounds of funding. The interesting perspective from Tony, the kid from Hong Kong, Chinese kid from Hong Kong, who has been on the other side of the funding where he funds deals and invests in deals and etc. It's as he would tell you, it's completely the opposite. I mean, his skill sets are significantly different than the skill sets required to get one of these deals funded. Although they certainly, he's at an advantage having been on the other side of the table. But for those of you that have been in that position, you would think, wrongfully so, you would think that, because you're used to that side, that it would make it significant, well, some things significantly easier, and it doesn't. It doesn't do that. Because of that same bicycle thing. You've learned, no, I don't like that. What about this? When you're there, you're being asked, and it's the same thing. Although I do believe it is, in some ways it's an advantage, but in some ways it's a disadvantage, because you've got those entrenched in that your questions are based on your skill set, based on your experience, and it's not the same as you going, as I used to say, which is truthful, hat in hand, begging for money. And I keep this here to remind myself, I used to go hat in hand. Some of you are too important, and I don't mean you, but I mean fucking morons on YouTube, are to go hat in hand. You've worked too fucking hard to get where you are in life, to go on your fucking knees begging for money. Wrong. If that's your attitude, you might as well give your fucking kilt and your shit back to Kim now, and we don't have to go through graduation. Jamie didn't enjoy the experience, but he got good enough at it, and now he's, he knows what works and what doesn't for him. Anything about anything? Aria is coming on in 20 minutes. But before, and again, he had a different approach, which you've seen. You have a different approach. One of the questions that I would ask if I were you melonheads, but I mean, this is just one guy, 70 in a few days, that's seen about 800 or 900 of you come through the program, is what was the biggest difference from his perception to when he got in front of the first person? Because his communication skills are pretty good. They're pretty good. Some of you, all of you should practice what did he practice? What were the things that he spent most of his time on getting ready? Okay. We're giving you the benefit of the doubt. You're not the great leaders here, but you're going to be talking to some guys that have some real leadership skills. And what do they all know? Well, one of the things they know now, and this is the hardest thing, one of the hardest things for me to still do, and I still go back to default on it, is that you can't impose your will like the 4th or 5th century manager that I really am down deep in my soul. Down deep in your soul. Now, there's certain parts of the world you still can impose your will. Let me think here. Nigeria, Ghana, Rwanda, parts of South Africa, part of the Eastern Bloc countries, Russia, to name a few. But for the most part, I just got an offer from somebody from Latvia. Yeah, I think it's Latvia. And the Eastern Bloc countries, the old Eastern Bloc, because they're not the Eastern Bloc anymore, somehow discovered my Gestapo methods. Not unlike you, actually. They said when you got done that you sounded, or I said, you sounded like a Gestapo officer getting ready to grill and send somebody off to the fucking ovens. Now see, that doesn't hurt his feelings. They got a lot accomplished. So, but it doesn't hurt any of you to be more aggressive like he was in the presentation. This is, a soft sell is not what you want. You want a professional hard sell. Unless you are an Army officer, can't lead without first understanding what it is to be a follower. One of the things that some of you, well, all of you, because most of you are in following positions, you've been following positions. In other words, you've had leadership, you've had people above you. We have some people that come here that have never had anybody above them. So it's a little difficult for them to assume the position in a positive way to be a leader. The people up on the back wall, and many of these people, in fact, all those people, have leadership skills that you will have to develop. Some of you have a few leadership skills, but I mean, and the main leadership skill that you will have to develop to get these things done with the accountants, the Lord, is your communication skills. Now, as articulate and Jamie really writes better than he talks. He writes exceedingly well. He knows that I wouldn't tell him that if I didn't believe it, although I beat the fuck out of him for the last year. But the good news is, when I see that executive summary, oh, fuck, somebody knows how to write here. And that's why the executive summary is so important. And I don't write it for you. And don't ask him to write it for you. Oh, Jamie, what do you think of this? That's not his task. And I know some of you fucks have already thought of that. So I'm going to stop it right now. I also put in the email in the Dropbox that you're going to get, you haven't got yet, for the templates that we added to the old guys' templates. If I find out that you called them, face fucked them, link fucked them, tweet fucked them, whatever, about their presentation, you're out. I send it to you because it's part of the arrows that are in your quiver now. I didn't send it to you for you to call Tony, for you to call all these guys, and for you to bother Jamie. But Jamie is really kind of a Santa Claus kind of guy, and so he'd probably fuck with you. But I'm already saying don't do it. I hope everybody understands, because I'm dead serious about that. I mean, he's on his path now, and I'm happy that he's here and he's able to help. So you're going to get these and put them into practice. Why do you have high performance men and women? one of the questions that's going to get asked is why do you get paid so much and why do you have so much of the deal? Powell, how would you going to answer that?
They make difficult decisions.
Yeah, but how? No, when asked you, fucking okay, pimple face, why you? Especially the pimple faces in the room. Nobody's got pimples, but kids. Why do you have 58% of this deal?
Because I make the hard decisions.
Oh, yes, jawohl, mein Herr.
And besides that, I deserve it. Because I deserve a lot.
Well, leave the dessert part out. The other part was good. Yeah. Okay. Who else? Why do you...
Doing all the hard work.
I put this fucking thing together. I'm the energy. I did all the legwork. I brought you all... Okay.
I was one of the founders, and the chairman had faith in me. He chose me for this position, and I never go against the chairman.
Slick. I mean, yeah. You can tell maturity in that Ivy League slickness. Yeah. Now, is that the Yale or the Columbian? Yeah.
No, it's the con.
The con. That's the right answer. That's good. That's one of the right answers. Okay. Mateos' answer is also correct, except for that last part. I deserve to be wealthy and you to be poor. I deserve to live and you deserve to die. No. Yeah, no. That's not the right part of the answer. Especially on YouTube, that's not the right part of the answer. Anybody else got it? Why? Because that will come up, especially for the young kids. They used to ask me that, and I used to.
The most risk.
Well, you're not really taking any risk. You're not putting up any money. So no, that sounds like a Matt the Moron answer, which is one of my mentees, which is one of his mentors. No, the best answer is what Jamie said, and that's why it's so important who you get to be the chairman of your deal, because you can lay all kind of shit off on him or her. It's mostly him. Once in a while it's a her, and that's not because I'm being chauvinistic or anything. It just is, and they'll buy off on it. Yeah, because what they're going to think is this. Okay, let's take Powell. Okay, he's not exactly well, he is a kid, but he's got this chairman. He's got these board of directors that are directly or indirectly, really directly, aligning their reputation, their credibility, their 82 million years of track record on him. So, I mean, what is that telling me, Mr. Doofus accountant, me, Mr. Doofus lawyer, me, financial institution? It's that they believe in the kid. Why, for myself, it's, why in the zenith of my career would I do this if I didn't believe in it? And the other potential chairman and directors are going to believe, basically be in the same position. Why? Not necessarily in the golden years of their career, but why, after all these years of success, would I take a chance on something I didn't believe in, and a person I didn't believe in? And it works. And it happens to be 100% truthful. Okay, YouTube. Thank you. We'll see you tonight. And when you have to, all the directors have to initial all the shit when 68? Are you fucking crazy? Yeah, so... And I've told them, I try to be as upfront as I can so they know what to expect. But you don't listen. See, they don't listen to that part. You just, and my mother once told me a long, long time ago when I was a kid, when the teachers used to call my uncle used to call my dad, and my dad would have to come down and talk to the principal or whoever, and all my dad would hear, Dan fucked up, Danny, me. Danny fucked up. Didn't matter what happened. 5 guys jumped me with clubs. Didn't matter. Dan broke the kid's arm, did this and that. I get a whooping, you know. And if the nuns beat me, they didn't beat you good enough, so I'm gonna give you a whooping too. But the nuns are actually nicer to me. But to this day, Danny, let me see your hands. Put them out like this. And the nuns used to hit you with rulers across the hands. To this day, I mean, I snap back from being hit in the hand so many times by the fucking rulers. And I was the last kid at my 50-year high school reunion. I gave an honorary swat, you know, hit with a paddle, to one of my classmates who is a retired policeman. Because he or a combination thereof, got one of the last corporal punishment beatings in Los Angeles School District, 1963. After that, you couldn't beat kids. But I got one of the last, or maybe he did, the retired cop. But they have me ceremonially, they're taking pictures of the 50-year, and like this, and he's laughing. And he says, I ought to be hitting you, Dan. And so, but then you couldn't do it anymore. But, you know, then not too many, well, that was 50 years ago, 50 plus years ago. And but that certainly wasn't the last beating I got. But I mean, from a teacher it was. You can't, you know, teachers couldn't hit you anymore. But when my kid brother went back to the same junior high school I did, I took a class, and and you can, for those of you that'll be here, my kid brother's here in a few days, and he said, Vince Peña, and Vince raises his hand. You can't be related to Danny Peña, could you? I mean, it's not possible. So, oh yeah, you know my big brother? And he just looked down. And he said, are you sure you want to take this class? Because they naturally assumed he was maybe like I was. And teachers didn't necessarily want me in their class. And I told you about when I graduated. Yeah. 3 weeks before graduation, we're sitting in the senior quad, and I'm having a McDonald's hamburger. And our school was a lockdown. They locked us down. Everybody understand that? You couldn't leave campus. Okay, lock you down. And so the boys' vice principal, Hank Leeds, is walking by, and he says, and I'm sitting there with Walt, the big blonde guy that was on that picture, Ruben Munoz, who's now serving life for murder at Florida State Penitentiary, and myself. We're sitting there, and he says, where'd you get those goddamn hamburgers? So I said, we ordered out. They didn't deliver in those days. And so they said, you come to my office after the lunch period. So we went to his office, and he gave us our diplomas 3 weeks early and told us to get off campus. We don't want your kind on campus anymore. 3 weeks. And so at first we said, oh, fuck, great. Took the diploma, went down to a pool hall, and we're shooting 9-ball, which is a form of pool. After we had 7, 8, 10 pitchers of beer, Walt Wojak, who was the intellect of the three of us, hey, it's 1963. I mean, Martin Luther King is marching. I mean, they can't fucking throw us off campus. So we went back to the campus, and we busted into Hank Leeds' office, and we took our diplomas and threw them in his face and said, you ain't going to kick us off campus. And I said, allegedly, I'm going to burn this fucking school down. Allegedly, I said that. I have no recall of saying that. Okay. And we caused a lot of havoc on campus for those last 3 weeks before we graduated. And I was not such a great kid. When I get my books at the beginning of the semester, I put them in a locker. They still have lockers in schools? Okay, and you get 4 or 5 books, and I put them in the corner. And at the end of the semester, when gives the books back, there was a dust line around my books like this because I never moved them. I never took one home. I never picked one up. A dust line. And I graduated with a 2.55 average out of 4, which is kind of a C plus-ish. And by osmosis, because I never took the books home to do homework. And in class, I got, and I could sit there kind of half asleep. We used to go in the morning to a place called, I can't think it. We had Bloody Marys in the morning before school. And we go to this hamburger place, Hamburger Hamlet, which served Bloody Marys in the morning. And we'd have Bloody Marys in the morning, had 4 or 5 Bloody Marys. Then we go to class. and sleep. And it's a miracle. It's a fucking miracle. That's some of you that are going to meet some. It's a miracle dance here. Okay, back to Arya. I mean, we're happy that he helped us. We are knowing when to say no and getting rid of the potential board member. You'll need the support of your chairman. Mark wouldn't, but for the most part, all you kids don't have the level of sophistication to try to knock out somebody that has been there, and they may even laugh at you. Me out? Yeah, sure. And they'll make one call to the bank. That discussion we had about Powell, I think you were right. I think he should go. And then you'll be working on your next acquisition, your second one. Of course, they're going to love Hector, though. All these guys. Now, if he gets white people on his board, he's history. But if he does what I know he's going to do, he'll put a cap in his ass. They'll put a cap in his Chicano ass right quick. Any questions? Let's see, I'm going to cover one more slide before we break. No, that's good. We don't have to do that. We'll stop here. Anything else about, our Building the Dream team that was covered today? Now, tomorrow, 3 slides from now, where do you get the fucking money? How do you use the fucking money? What do you say about the fucking money? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And about 50 or 60 financial myths that you have been learning. Just as he told us on the call that the banks do it one way, the accountants do it one way, the lawyers do it one way, and his board wants to do it one way, and it's all the old-fashioned way. And you're going to be there showing them the new way. And the fact that Jamie, had 100% financing is not unusual. And we will show you how to overfinance the deals legitimately. I can add that word, I'll get a bunch of emails. And I've seen deals overfinanced 20-30% and without too much problem. If you do it the QLA way, not the old way. And once you get a bank that gets comfortable with financing deals your way, you stay with them. You don't be running off willy-nilly. The good news is he's talked to a lot of banks, and now we can go back. You had that party, which was a good idea. That wasn't my idea. It was his idea, where they came back. And what did they say to you?
Oh, we got the president of one of the banks that I talked to before. I didn't go with them, but the president came, and her daughter, and 2 guys came from one of the banks that was in the running. Like, they gave a letter of intent, but they didn't close. They were too slow, and they were still trying to kind of sweet talk us, and it was a great time. But from my perspective, I didn't need anybody to come. The whole point was getting the invitation with my happy face, and the banker who won, their competitor,
That's good. So it's a little bit of a needle. You should have taken me more seriously. You should have acted faster, et cetera, et cetera. And there are points of gamesmanship about this that you'll learn as you feel more comfortable that you would have never done before. Especially the guys that have the professional finance backgrounds. Especially the guys, the CFAs, MBAs, CPAs, and all that other horse shit. That because it would be considered outside the norm. But this is outside the norm. Remember, I talk about thinking outside the box. This whole process is outside the box. But you just heard it works in 2015. Although I started doing it in the 70s. And it's a lot easier now because you can get a lot more done. You could have never done what he did in 45 days, the old shoe leather way. Not possible. Not possible. I mean, because you're going to see all these people. And he flew back and forth between Los Angeles and New York 4 or 5 times. Excuse me. You know, and now I'm glad he moved there. Anything else?
I've got a question.
Sure.
We've asked a lot, talked about roll-ups quite a bit. Is there any other transactions we could use this stuff for?
I mean, you can use it for, you know, your own business. I mean, the methodologies, the leadership, the human resources or the lack thereof. You know, testing your employees. All these things work whether you do a roll-up or not. But the concept or the main platform is rolling up to accumulated, fragmented industries and selling up, taking it public, or franchising it. I mean, that's it. And doing it cash out and then do it again and then cash out and then do it again. He already talked about, you know, doing it again. Because once the thing is up, let's say a year from now, it's $1 billion, whatever it is, there's going to be no need for him. There'll be, I mean, zero. I won't say zero, but it's nice to talk about the founders and bullshit, but I mean, there's no need. So his idea is he wants to do it. When I told him that people your age can do it 7, 8 times, his goal is, I think he wants to do it 10 times before he's through. And he's young enough to be able to do that. What happens is, like I told you, the first 50, 100,000 of any business you've started is geometric. What happens, and you have to watch yourself, is after you do it 1 or 2 times, you go into default of the first time. And you aren't necessarily aware of the changing environment, the changing economic, and all this stuff. So when you try to do the third one using the first model that worked for you, and the world may have, depending on where you are, where are interest rates now, where this, where that. I told you when I looked at maybe the market has snapped back and we're back in a bull market. I don't know. But this morning, I hadn't looked at it. I mean, the market, looked pretty dismal. Everything was red, and people were talking about 30% down from the highs, 43% down from the highs, oil in the 40s. I don't know how it finished. Anybody look?
No.
The American market wasn't down so far.
Hmm?
The American market wasn't
That
down.
was oil spring back in the 40s?
Into the oil price.
Okay. Well, so we'll see.
I guess what I meant, like, say there was a public company that was trading what you thought was undervalued or something like that.
Yeah, well, it's like the public to private. I mean, 4 Seasons. I took a public company and I took it private. Absolutely. And then you bolt on stuff, but then you sell it again.
Yes.
You do the same stuff, but then you sell it again. And there are occasionally public companies that are undervalued. But unless we have a sell-off in the market, most of the public companies are overvalued. I mean, leading earnings on the Standard & Poor, these are American numbers, Standard & Poor, et cetera, leading or lagging earnings are 17 to 20 times earnings. I mean, it's tough to take a company public that it's undervalued. And then the tech companies are at 40, 50 times earnings, if they have any earnings at all. That's tough. You won't be buying any public companies at 4 to 6 to 7 times cash flow. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Okay. Good night, YouTubers. Thank you. Who's my first appointment?